Hello, welcome to my channel. You're watching What Helen Reads and I'm Helen, and today I've got another dark romance recommendation video for you. Now I'm really excited to be doing this video today because the last time I did a dark romance recommendation video, like specifically dark romance, was almost a year ago. But that video that I did before it's actually my best performing video to date, with well over 8,000 views, which is way more than my normal average, where my videos only normally see a couple of hundred views each. It's taken me a good 10 months to record another one of these, mainly because I do read a lot of dark romances, particularly mafia romances, and I tend to talk about those separately as part of Mafia Romance Mondays. And also sometimes I find that romances are tagged as dark romances, but they're actually not really that dark. They just might have some dark themes or some sexual content in them that makes them specifically dark. So I really wanted to wait until I had about 8 or 9 recommendations that were books that I personally loved and really want to recommend that were very much dark romances. And also the majority of these are not mafia romances either. A couple of them are mafia adjacent, but the majority of these are not mafia romances. So the first book that I want to talk about today is this one. It's King by T M Frazier. Now this is part 1 of like a 7-part series. It's part of the King series, but this one is actually part of a duet. The first book is called King, and then the second book I've got here as well called Tyrant, and I'm kind of going to be talking about these two books, this sort of duet, together at the same time, because it is one story. They are actually fairly short reads. The first book is only like 300 pages, and then the second one is not quite 300 pages. So in this first part of this story then, we meet our hero King. He is literally just come out of prison. He's a bit of a career criminal and he has recently been in prison. He's just been released, and when he goes home, his friends, some of which are in a motorbike club, decide to throw him a bit of a party. So there's a party going on at his house, and this is then where we meet the heroine of the story, who is known only as Doe, because what we find out is that she has absolutely no memory. She doesn't know who she is, where she's come from, or how she's really got into the place where she's got. All she remembers is that she wakes up in a dumpster. She is taken to hospital and treated, but then very quickly when she realizes, well, she doesn't have any insurance, she doesn't know who she is, she doesn't have any ID, they kind of release her back onto the streets, and then she kind of has nowhere to stay, and she gets then has a friend who appears to be a like a sex worker, sort of takes her in, and she manages to get a invite to this MC party. And she thinks it's a really great idea to go there, because actually if they can bag themselves a biker, then they can become an old lady, and then we'll have somewhere to stay and something to eat and all of that good stuff. So they end up at King's sort of return home party. Now at one point they make their way into his bedroom and find a big stash of cash, and her friend decides that she's going to take the opportunity to steal this money. Of course the friend gets away, but Doe does not, and King captures her, and then he quite literally chains her to his bed so that she cannot escape, and then he tries to get information out of her about her friend so that he can go and get the cash, and then as the story goes on and they get to know each other a little bit better, we find out a bit more about King's backstory, why he went to prison, what is going on with all of that, and also start to uncover a little bit more about Doe, how she lost her memory, who she actually is, and to see if any of her memories come back. So this is very much a relationship between King and Doe, but they've got a lot of bad history, if you like, on both their parts that they need to work their way through, so that they can start to form a relationship together. Now at the end of this book, something happens that means at the start of this second book called Tyrant, Doe actually gets her memories back and she remembers exactly what happened to her. And then I think book 2 really kicks off the stakes in terms of this level of sinister that this story has, because we then start to work out who the tyrant actually is. And it is extremely, like I say, sinister and creepy, lots of twists and turns, and we start to figure out that maybe all of the people we've met are not who they seem, and a lot more is going on here in the backstory. But I actually read these books back in 2021. The story has stayed with me ever since. Really enjoyed it and would highly recommend. Then I've got Deliver by Pam Godwin. I spoke about this multiple times before in a variety of other videos, including my favourites for 2023. I read this last year and absolutely loved it. And Deliver is book 1 in the Deliver series, which I think there was about 9 books, and in this one we are following Josh and Liv. Now this one is extremely dark because this is about human trafficking, sex trafficking, and essentially Liv is in a situation where she is a trainer training people to become sex slaves, and she has a certain number of weeks to train them, when then the people basically are sold to the highest bidder, and that's kind of how they're making their money. Now as we start this book, Liv has got her newest assignment. She has been asked to track down a particular type of person, and Josh absolutely meets this description. So in the very start of this book, Liv actually tricks Josh into going back to her house, and once there she captures him, chains him up, and starts to then start his training in earnest. Now the thing is, Josh, it turns out, is not really trainable. He is a very religious person, has a strong moral compass, and really knows who he is as a person, and he absolutely holds on to not only his faith but also to the person that he is, and he will not bow to Liv or be trained. What he does realise though, and start to recognise quite quickly, is that Liv maybe isn't the aggressor in this situation, and she may also be a victim herself, and he kind of sets about trying to figure out a bit more about her, because he decides that she isn't there of her own free will, and he kind of wants to help not only escape himself but also rescue Liv from this situation. So I absolutely found this very fascinating. It's very dark. Obviously Josh is in a very difficult, challenging, very disturbing situation, but the relationship that he starts to develop with Liv, some of the things you find out in this are absolutely gripping. It's so well written, and like I say, thoroughly enjoyed this one. Then another favourite of 2023 is The Danger You Know by Lily White, and this is sort of a stalker romance situation. The main hero in this one is Ari, and he is basically not only the heroine, who is Adeline, her stalker, but his sort of main job, if you like, is as an assassin. This has also got a bit of a captive element to this one as well. But essentially, Ari, like I say, is an assassin, and at the very start of this story, he is doing a job which involves assassinating Adeline's father. Now Adeline is only a teenager when this actually happens, and she finds her father's body, and Ari is still around, and he actually looks back and sees how upset Adeline is because of the death of her father, and in fact he's left her an orphan because her mother has already passed away, so she only had one parent. And then he has kind of a moment of guilt or doubt, and realizes that or makes a decision that this girl, this Adeline, is now kind of his responsibility. So this is where the stalking starts, because he decides that he's going to just keep an eye on her, make sure that she's okay, and hopefully not get herself into trouble. And so what then starts is years worth of stalking, where he literally follows her. He knows her movements, he knows her inside and out, everything she does, everywhere she goes, he knows. And if he can't be there himself because he's got to go to a job or sleep, then he enlists a friend to basically help him keep an eye on Adeline. Now as she grows into an older teen and into her early 20s, she is very kind of a disturbed young woman, very affected by her past and what's happened and the death of her father, and she starts to act out. Obviously she hangs around with the wrong people, goes to some shady places, has drink and drugs and that sort of stuff, and some of the boyfriends that she attaches herself to end up being not that nice to her. And the whole time Ari is going along mopping up the pieces. So if anyone threatens her, if anyone does anything to her, he will make sure that he removes them from the situation and kind of mopping up her messes basically as we go. Until the point where Adeline is a lot older, she meets a man that she wants to marry and she eventually gets married. And Ari is very content to just continue to watch. However, it becomes very clear after just a few months of marriage that Adeline is not happy in her marriage, and Ari has decided he's had enough. He's going to step in and he's going to take control of the situation and take control of Adeline. And like I say, so this is very, very dark, because not only have we got these stalker elements, some of the things that he's done in the past to keep her safe, but also her new husband doesn't turn out to be a great guy either, and Ari has to kind of then kidnap her and take her captive in order to rescue her from the husband. But I absolutely love this one, love the way it played out, and there was a really great writing style, I thought, where it felt that Ari was really talking to you as the reader, and we really got an insight into who he was as a person. So absolutely love that one. So something a little bit different, I'm going to recommend Bait by Jade West, and this is kind of an erotic sort of romance tale, but it features CNC. So the heroine in this one and the hero, in fact, both have like this rape fantasy that they want to act out. Now the heroine in this one is Abigail and the hero is Leo. It's, so like I say, it's an erotic romance. It is high spice, but the main theme of this one is the CNC elements of their story. When they first meet at the start of this story, Abigail really wants to explore her her sexual fantasy of having this rape fantasy, and she kind of goes online to try and meet someone, and she meets Leo online. Luckily for her, he's a good guy, but he's quite concerned that she's trying to find somebody to act out this fantasy with online, because he sort of says it's not really very safe. You could be meeting anyone, they could do anything to you, and so therefore actually I'm a good guy and I'm going to help you explore this fantasy, because I don't trust anyone else to do it, and I'm worried that you're going to pick the wrong person basically. And so this is then how their relationship starts. They kind of pick a time and a place, and basically the hero in this one very much then enacts a very disturbing scene. She's out alone at night, she's in the middle of nowhere, and he kind of like literally hunts her as she runs and tries to escape through kind of like this deserted sort of car park and then into like the bushes and stuff like that, until he captures her and has his wicked way with her. Like I say, this is a erotic romance. It is high spice, but it's also got such a great plot running through this. We find out so much more about the characters in this one. They've both got you know, a very difficult past that they're trying to get over, and they really help each other and come to terms with what's happened to them and be able to move forward with their lives because of the relationship that they're building together. So then the next one is kind of a trilogy that I kind of want to recommend, but they're all very short books. And the first one that I'm going to talk about is The Initiation by Nikki Sloane. This is book one in the Filthy American series, but like I say, the first three books in this series focuses on the same couple, Royce and Maris, and they are all short books, so you can read them collectively together basically as one story. This is very dark because of the suspenseful nature of the plot. Like, it's very twisted, the characters are very twisted. We don't really know who's telling the truth, kind of what's happening. It all feels a little bit sinister, very uncomfortable kind of to read. But essentially what's happening in this one is, it's called Filthy Rich Americans. The kind of the main family in this story are the Hale family. They have a banking and holding sort of corporation, very wealthy indeed. And the father, who heads up this family, he is extremely manipulative, will do anything to get what he wants, and even manipulate his own son. So the son in this one is Royce, and basically he is very career driven, very hungry to take over his father's company, and he's been working his way up in the organisation, but and now he's trying to go for a seat on the board. Now there is some very strange historical ritual that you need to do in order to get onto the board, which also includes Royce getting married, and then basically he and his wife having to do things in the boardroom to prove their loyalty to this company. Now, Royce has for a long time kind of been supposed to marry the heroine's sister, so the heroine is Maris, and Royce has kind of like had this upcoming arranged marriage, if you like, to Maris' sister. The thing is, Royce isn't interested in marrying Maris' sister, and she doesn't want to marry him, and in fact he's got his eyes set on Maris herself. So again, he does a lot of manipulation to manipulate the situation so that ultimately he is able to marry Maris, and this is very much a forced Maris situation. Maris really doesn't want to marry Royce. He likes her much more than she likes him at this stage, but she's pretty much forced into it, otherwise they are going to ruin her family and take all of their money away from them and things like that. So she kind of has no choice but to go through with it. The thing is, Royce's father also has his sights set on Maris, and so what then starts to play out is this very, very sort of insidious, like manipulative situation, like I said, where they're both vying for her affections, they're both using her weaknesses against her, blackmailing her to do things she doesn't want to do, like I say, you don't know who to trust. At one point, Royce takes Maris to one side and sort of said, when we're in private, you can trust everything I say to you, what I tell you will be the truth, but in public, do not trust anything I do or anything that I say, because I will do and say anything I need to in order to reach my goal, which is to take over the company from my father. And so Maris is really stuck between this rock and a hard place, but over time she learns the tricks of the trade, she learns manipulation skills herself, and as we go through the series of the 3 books, there's so many twists and turns, there's 2 really, really good cliffhangers to books 1 and book 2, really making you want to keep reading. And it's, like I say, it's very gripping, very pearl clutching, lots of very shocking, scandalous things go on in this story, but I absolutely loved it and was completely riveted, and so we'll definitely be going on to read the rest of the books in the series. Next up then we have Mercy by Debra Anastasia, and this is another kind of dark stalker romance. In this one we are following Mercy, who's the title of the book. That's his street name, if you like, because he is known to have no mercy. He never shows any, and he is basically a very highly skilled, highly sought after assassin, but he spends the majority of his time rescuing children that have been kidnapped. He has got a very, very scary persona though. Everyone is frightened of him. In fact, they don't even know if he exists. He's kind of like almost a bit of like a folklore, this man called Mercy, because not only is he, you know, known to be extremely vicious and show no mercy, he's also completely covered in tattoos, and not just pictorial tattoos, shall we say, but a complete human skeleton. So he wears a skeleton face, and literally on his arms, legs, chest, everywhere, every part of him is covered in a human skeleton tattoo. So he's very, very, you know, scary to look at as well. Now, his whole life, he's been stalking this young woman called Becca. And the reason is because when he was a little boy, he had a very violent father, and this father ended up unaliving his mother, of which he was a witness. Shortly after, his father takes him to the grocery store, and obviously he's still very, very shaken and upset by what he's witnessed, and the father is being very horrible to him and threatening to basically beat him if he drops the groceries in the store. Now, Becca is only a young girl. She's very similar age to Mercy, in fact, but she sees what's going on, and a very, very sort of self-righteous little girl goes up and says to his father, hey, stop picking on him, you're much bigger than him, you're just being a bully, don't hit your son. And Mercy is completely taken aback by this, that someone would have the audacity but also the strength to stand up to his father, and he sees something in her, and also he realises that maybe he has value if someone is going to stick up for him in that way as well. Now, obviously his father is not happy about this at all, and Mercy starts to worry that his father is going to get retribution on this little girl for showing him up in public, and therefore he starts kind of this stalker campaign. He starts to stalk Becca to make sure that she is safe from her father. But of course, over the years, as she gets older and he gets older, he starts to develop more feelings for her and absolutely falls in love with her, but is too scared to introduce himself, because you know he's a scary person, he's into dangerous things and people are scared of him, until one night he gets the opportunity because Becca works at a pub and they have like this I guess equivalent to a Halloween night. I can't remember what they exactly called it, but it was like kind of like Night of the Dead or something like that, and people could go up dressed in costumes. And so Mercy has the opportunity to then to go as he is but pretend he's in costume and introduce himself to Becca, and then their relationship goes from there. So the next one is Even If It Hurts by Sam Mariano, and this is book 1 in the Coastal Elite series, and we're following Dare and Aubrey. This is very much a bully romance, a dark bully romance. It takes place in the senior year of high school, and Dare, our hero, is the ultimate psychopath. So if you've ever read any of Sam Mariano's before, you know her heroes are kind of next level. They're always very, very sinister. You absolutely have no idea what they are going to do, and they absolutely have no limits in terms of what they're going to do. There's lots of CNC, dubious consent, non-consent in here. So I would definitely check your trigger warnings if you're going to read anything by Sam Mariano. Now the truth of this one is that I absolutely loved it. I thought it was another masterpiece. I thought the story was absolutely fantastic, but I did not enjoy this couple at all. The main hero in this one, well, if he's an anti-hero really, is Dare. I never really took to Dare at all, didn't like him, but you cannot fault Sam's writing. And I know lots of people do really like Dare, and I was absolutely gripped by the story from start to end, but I just didn't get the sense when I got there that they really would get their HEA. Hopefully Dare will continue to evolve in some of the later books in the series, because essentially what happens in here is that Aubrey is just a regular girl at school. She is trying to look after her mother, who is very, very sick with cancer. The father's not in the picture, and so she is not only working really, really hard at school, so she gets good grades and she can go to college, but also she is working a job so that she can afford money to keep the house running, basically, because her mum is so sick, she's got cancer, she's not able to work, and with the addition of the medical bills and trying to keep a roof over their head, Aubrey is very stretched very thinly. Unfortunately for her, one day Dare's girlfriend comes into the shop where she works and demands a refund on a top that wasn't even bought at the store and was clearly well used, well worn. And so Aubrey politely declines to give this girl a refund. She is not happy about this situation though at all, and sets about making Aubrey's life an absolute misery, including enlisting the help of Dare, her boyfriend, to basically go after Aubrey, try and convince her to go out with him, take her virginity, and then basically do some horrible things, make her feel really bad, and then dump her. And this is the revenge that the girlfriend really wants. Now Dare is clearly a psychopath, and he doesn't really care for this sort of revenge plot that his girlfriend's got, but he's very intrigued by Aubrey, and he is very intrigued by this idea that he's going to somehow manipulate her. And so he agrees to do it, not because he wants to, like I say, get in his girlfriend's good graces or anything. He's just very intrigued himself to see how far he's going to be able to push Aubrey and what he's going to be able to do. Of course, Dare can switch on the charm when he wants to, and he does start to win Aubrey over. But it's very, very manipulative. He's very, very tricky. Aubrey knows that he's not a good guy, but is very, very attracted to him, wants to be with him. And yeah, it's just a very, very difficult, challenging sort of relationship. Now, as the girlfriend starts to realise that Dare is taking his time, his sweet time, trying to get Aubrey into trouble, she starts to escalate some of the things that happen. And as a result, Dare has to start to escalate what he's doing as well. And Aubrey starts to question Dare's motivations, what's actually going on, can she really trust him? Like, she knows he's a bad guy and she shouldn't trust him, but he's saying to me, you need to trust me, because this game is really starting to turn. So is Dare still trying to get her, or is he trying to protect her from the girlfriend? It all becomes a bit blurry and we're not really sure, but what we do know is, like I say, he absolutely has Aubrey wrapped around his little finger. Some people might say that Aubrey doesn't have a backbone and that she should fight against Dare a little bit more, but Dare would not stand for that at all. That's not the sort of woman he is wanting, who you know, who he wants to be with. And so Aubrey is the perfect person for Dare. And like I say, one of the things about this it was absolutely gripping, absolutely fantastic, amazing writing, great story. But I didn't really feel that they had the HEA at the end, because I don't ever feel that Aubrey really had a choice about being with Dare, even though we see her say that she does want to be with him. If she ever chooses in the future to not be with him, Dare will absolutely not stand for that. And so I felt like she wasn't really there voluntarily of her own free will. But that's what makes a great dark romance, right? So absolutely would recommend, and we'll be going on to read more in that series. So the next one is a mafia adjacent romance called Savage Wounds by Lilian Harris, and this one is book 4 in the Messina crime family, and we are following Adrielle and Kayla. Now Kayla was a girl that we'd met in the first book. She'd actually been captured by 2 of her other friends, sold into sex slavery, and had been kind of under lock and key, if you like, horribly mistreated for about 9 years until she is rescued. Since her rescue, she's been struggling to reintegrate herself into society. She's tried group therapy, individual counselling, but she can't really shake her past or move on, and therefore she's developed her own coping mechanisms, one of which that she has become a stripper in a nightclub, because she feels that she has absolute control over her body when she does this. You know, she can take her clothes off when she wants to, she's completely in control of the situation, and then men can't touch her without her permission. But she also has an opportunity to take revenge on someone who gets a bit too handsy with her, and kind of starts to become a bit of a vigilante, so unaliving people who are bad, who are going to hurt women. However, she's not very good at it at all, and she's doing things that are very dubious indeed, in terms of the fact that she'll get caught if she's not careful. But luckily for her, Adrielle, our hero in this story, he is also a vigilante, sort of unaliver, and is actually an expert at not only performing his task but also disposing of the bodies afterwards. And when he sees what she's doing, when their paths sort of cross, because they're going after a very similar, I'll call them a victim, they're not really victims, but a very similar bad guy, their paths do cross, and he basically becomes very intrigued with her, and then kind of offers her a deal that he's going to help her become better at her craft, hide the evidence, how to dispose of the body, and so on and so forth. And then their relationship really does start to go from there. So like I say, this one is mafia adjacent, but it is very much a stalker, because Adrielle very much stalks Kayla to start with, to figure out who she is and what's going on. Before then, he was like, come into the fold with me and I'll show you how to do this perfectly. So there are some scenes obviously of them unaliving people together, and being very happy about that fact. And this one is also an age gap as well. Then the last one I want to recommend today is God of Fury by Rina Kent. This is book 5 in the Legacy of the Gods series. I absolutely love this one, gave it 5 stars, another favourite of 2023. And in this one we are following Nikolai and Brandon, so this one is an college romance as well. Again, this is one is sort of mafia adjacent. Nikolai is part of the Russian Bratva in New York, but he is in the UK studying at college, and he goes to a college very, very close to where Brandon goes, and Brandon is part of the King family, who basically are very highly well-to-do, very high in society in the UK, because this one is also kind of it's called Legacy of the Gods, and this one is kind of a legacy, kind of next generation series. So Rina Kent has written some other series where we've got a mafia couples having kids, and then also a UK one where they're sort of very, very political, like billionaires and lords, that sort of thing. So there's like the UK group of kids, and they go to this college, these colleges that are next door to each other. So through this series we've seen some of the other Americans and British couples start to pair up, and we have very much been working our way towards Nikolai and Brandon's story. Nikolai is very sort of disturbed. He's got a lot of mental health issues. He has sort of manic episodes and he needs medication in order to help him, but he hates taking the medication because it obviously knocks him out quite a bit, and he therefore turns to sort of fighting to relieve sort of that some of that pent-up rage and energy that he has. Brandon meanwhile also has some mental health issues. He is Landon's twin brother, and Landon was another character from a previous book. Up to this point, we've really believed that Brandon is a goody two-shoes, that he's his parents' favourite, but we start to uncover that actually he has also had a very difficult upbringing and past, something that quite traumatic to happen to him in his childhood, and he is really struggling inside to deal with what happened to him, but he absolutely puts on this like front, this veneer that everything is fine, and in order to kind of survive and to keep this front going, he has to like be very ordered. Everything happens in a sequence. He can't deviate from his normal kind of routine, and Nikolai absolutely comes into this situation and absolutely smashes through Brandon's kind of resolve, completely disrupts his routine, and Brandon is sort of left reeling, but together they come together, and it's such a beautiful romance that they have between them, how they help each other heal, how they discover about each other's past, and how they're going to move forward together as a couple. So really enjoyed that and would highly recommend. So there we go, that's 9 dark romance recommendations for you. I hope you liked it. If you did, please give it a thumbs up, and remember to subscribe to the channel if you want to see more content from me. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye. There's always a bit of hair, isn't there? I don't know. Did I say something where I can cut it off and go, yeah, I've done that. Cut it off. I don't know why I'm holding them like this. Part of a duet, and this is the second book. Should we just start that again? By the time we get to book 2, which is this one, Tyrant. Oh, I haven't even been holding it up. I could have been holding it up this whole time. It's like I can't even remember how to film a video. I literally just did it last weekend and recorded 3 of them as well. By T M Lewis. T M Lewis, no it's not. It's not T M Lewis. Who's T M Lewis? I've just been staring at the book. I feel like I just need to start again really with this, but anyway.